Most people think of prisons as places where dangerous criminals are locked up so society can feel safe. But what if the prison itself becomes a psychological torture chamber? What if safety comes at the cost of basic human rights? Today, we dive into the truth behind ADX Florence, the prison known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, and uncover the dark reality behind its walls. Let's rewind to the 1980s and early 90s when America's federal prison system was facing a crisis. Back then, even in maximum security prisons, violence was out of control. There were repeated murders of guards, gang wars among inmates, and even coordinated escapes. Criminals who were supposed to be locked up for life were still able to run operations from behind bars, intimidate witnesses, and plan hits on rivals. A major wake-up call came in 1983 when two correctional officers were killed by members of the Aryan Brotherhood at a federal prison in Marion, Illinois. That prison, once considered the most secure, was completely locked down. But even that wasn't enough. Law enforcement officials began to realize something important. They needed a new kind of prison, not just more secure, but completely isolating. A place where even communication with other humans would be tightly controlled. A place that wouldn't just restrict movement, but could crush any possibility of influence, connection, or hope. So, plans were drawn up. A facility that would go beyond anything that had existed in the United States before. And after years of planning, ADX Florence was finally opened in 1994, tucked away in the isolated deserts of Colorado. But ADX Florence wasn't built to rehabilitate. It wasn't built to reform. It was built to contain, silence, and mentally break the most dangerous individuals in the country without ever using physical violence. Its design was clinical, cold, methodical. Every part of it, right down to the material used on the walls, was created to eliminate escape, prevent riots, and shut down human interaction. And that's just the beginning of what makes ADX Florence so terrifying. So who exactly gets sent to a place like ADX Florence? It was designed specifically for individuals the government considers too dangerous to be held anywhere else. People whose crimes weren't just brutal, but whose influence stretches beyond prison walls. These aren't inmates who just broke the law. These are people who, even while locked up, pose a threat to national security or public safety. Inside these concrete cells are some of the most feared names in recent American history. Take Terry Nichols, for example. He was the co-conspirator in the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, an attack that killed 168 people and injured hundreds more. His partner, Timothy McVeigh, was executed, but Nichols was sentenced to life and now spends every day in almost total isolation inside ADX. Then there's Richard Reid, better known as the Shoe Bomber. In 2001, just months after 9/11, Reid attempted to blow up an American Airlines flight using explosives hidden in his shoes. He failed, but the attempt was enough to change airport security protocols forever. He, too, was sent to ADX Florence. And of course, there's Ramzi Yousef, the man behind the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, an early warning sign of what was to come. He intended to bring down the Twin Towers with a truck bomb, and though the attack didn't collapse the buildings, it killed 6 people and injured over 1,000. He's now serving life in ADX under strict solitary confinement. Perhaps the most high-profile inmate in recent years is Joaquin El Chapo Guzmán, the infamous Mexican drug lord and former head of the Sinaloa cartel. After escaping twice from maximum security prisons in Mexico, U.S. authorities decided there was only one place secure enough to hold him permanently: ADX Florence. So what makes ADX Florence so feared? Not just by criminals, but by human rights groups, psychologists, and even former guards. Inside ADX Florence, life doesn't resemble anything close to what you'd imagine in a regular prison. Forget television shows that show inmates mingling in the yard or playing cards in a crowded cell block. Here, each prisoner is kept in total isolation, locked inside a small, windowless 7 by 12-foot concrete cell for at least 23 hours a day. The cell includes only the bare essentials: a concrete bed, a steel sink, and a toilet. The bed has a thin mattress and sometimes a pillow, if the prisoner is considered mentally stable enough to have one. There is no physical contact with any other human being, ever. Food is slid through a slot in the door. Conversations are rare and usually limited to commands from guards, shouted through reinforced steel doors. Inmates eat alone, sleep alone, and exercise alone. And by exercise, we don't mean running in a yard. It means being moved in shackles, to a slightly larger empty cell with a mesh ceiling that allows just a glimpse of the sky. That's their version of outdoor time. Even basic routines like showering are monitored and timed. Showers happen 3 times a week, and even then, the prisoner remains isolated. Cameras track their every movement, and some cells are rigged with motion sensors in case an inmate collapses or tries to harm themselves. There's no yelling, no interaction, no chaos. Just the slow, quiet erosion of the human mind. And that's what makes this place so terrifying. There are no visible wounds, no guards beating prisoners, no loud punishment scenes. Instead, there's just silence. A silence that stretches for days, weeks, even years. But wait, some might argue, isn't isolation better than violence? If a prison like ADX Florence is quiet, tightly controlled, and without riots, doesn't that mean it's working? Isn't this the safest way to contain dangerous individuals? On paper, yes, isolation may sound like a cleaner, less violent solution to managing America's most dangerous inmates, but in practice, it leads to a very different kind of suffering, one that many believe is far more damaging. Over the years, human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have raised serious concerns about the psychological impact of extreme solitary confinement. According to their reports, ADX Florence doesn't just isolate inmates physically, it completely disconnects them from reality. The human brain isn't built to withstand long periods of sensory deprivation and social exclusion. When it's forced into silence and stillness for months or years, it begins to unravel. There are numerous documented cases of inmates at ADX experiencing severe mental deterioration. Some begin talking to themselves, holding full conversations with imaginary people. Others scratch messages into their cell walls or try to harm themselves just to feel something, anything. There have been inmates who bang their heads against the wall repeatedly, some who smear feces across their cells, and others who attempt suicide. In fact, suicide attempts have been reported in shockingly high numbers, especially among inmates with pre-existing mental illnesses. And here's the most alarming part. Many of these inmates didn't receive adequate mental health support. In 2015, a group of prisoners at ADX filed a federal class action lawsuit claiming that the facility had ignored the psychological needs of mentally ill inmates. They alleged that instead of receiving treatment, they were punished further, sometimes by being stripped of what little privileges they had. In essence, rather than being seen as patients needing care, they were treated as threats to be controlled. So here's the big question. Is ADX Florence a necessary part of justice, or has it crossed the line into inhumane punishment? Supporters of ADX Florence and similar Supermax prisons argue that these facilities are essential. In their view, they house the worst of the worst, people who, if given the chance, could continue to manipulate, harm, or kill others even from inside a regular prison. They say the design of ADX is not about cruelty, it's about control. It ensures that dangerous criminals, including terrorists, cartel leaders, and serial killers, are kept far away from society and unable to influence the outside world or harm fellow inmates and prison staff. For these advocates, the silence of ADX is proof that it works. No riots, no escapes, no chaos, just control. But critics see a much darker picture. They argue that the system is deeply flawed, not because of who it locks up, but because of how it locks them up. Over the years, reports have shown that many inmates in ADX are not just violent criminals. They're individuals with severe mental illnesses, and yet they are treated with the same level of isolation and control. There's no meaningful distinction between those who are evil and those who are unwell. Critics say this kind of punishment doesn't just strip people of freedom, it strips them of humanity. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture has gone even further. He stated that any form of solitary confinement lasting more than 15 days should be banned, calling it a clear violation of international human rights standards. Yet at ADX Florence, inmates aren't kept in solitary for days or weeks. They're kept isolated for years, sometimes decades. With no meaningful human interaction, no rehabilitation programs, and very little mental health support. Can anyone ever leave this place? Or is ADX Florence a life sentence in every sense of the word? The short answer is yes. Some inmates do get out, but it's rare, and it's not usually through parole or early release. In most cases, inmates can only leave ADX Florence if they're transferred to a lower security facility due to good behavior, medical needs, or legal reasons. But these decisions are extremely selective. Even the definition of good behavior becomes complicated when someone spends nearly 24 hours a day in a cell with no interaction. There are no fights to avoid, no groups to lead or betray. It's hard to even misbehave when the system is designed to keep you entirely alone. For others, there is no way out. Many inmates are sentenced to spend the rest of their lives at ADX Florence, where the only real escape is through death. There's no final hearing, no reevaluation, just silence. Inmates grow old in their cells, some developing dementia or worsening mental health conditions, until they're quietly transferred to a prison hospice or body bag. And then there's the case of Joaquin El Chapo Guzmán, one of the world's most infamous drug lords. If anyone had the power, influence, or resources to receive special treatment, it was him. But even El Chapo wasn't spared from the severity of ADX Florence. In letters and legal filings, he described the conditions as cruel and inhumane, and said that being locked away in ADX was worse than anything he had experienced, even in the corrupt prisons of Mexico where he once escaped through secret tunnels. His complaints, however, didn't change anything, not even for someone with billions of dollars and international fame. What do you think? Is ADX Florence a necessary evil to protect society? Or has the US crossed the line into inhumane punishment? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video informative, do like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into real-world issues that matter.